Good morning and welcome. My name is Paul Valdez and I have been a watercolor artist for 30 years, and I certainly do thank you for joining me on the Do Not Be Afraid of Watercolor series. My job is to make watercolor easier for you, better for you, and help you become a more bold artist. Hopefully you'll avoid the mistakes I've made and become a professional watercolor beginner. Today we're going to talk angles. Should my board be flat? Should my board be at a 90-degree angle like this? I've seen some people paint like that. 45-degree angle, 25%. Well, that all depends. Are you using Bulldog Clips, which is what I use here? Tape, staples to hold your watercolor to the board. That is a personal preference and really has nothing to do with angles, except that your paper should be attached to a board so you can use different angles. Yep, you heard that right, different angles. I work mostly at a 20 to 30% angle, but flat as well, a lot like this, and sometimes 90 degrees depending. I turn my board sideways, upside down, left, right. I like to jog it back and forth. I stand and paint so that I can move back away from my painting. If I paint wet on dry, I can be at almost any angle. If I paint wet on wet, I use less of an angle unless I really want the paint to run. Let me demo that for you real quick. Let's do a little wet on wet over here. So I'm going to wet my paper really well. You can see probably quite plainly that I need to clean my brushes. So I'm going to put in a little ultramarine blue over here, and I'm going to let this kind of run. And you'll see with the angle that I have right now, it's not really running a lot, but as I lift it and move it down towards a 90-degree angle, you can see the movement that the paint has. Putting it back down. I'm going to get some clean paint, and I'm going to try a little bit of burnt sienna. Okay, and I'm going to just throw it right here. Now let's just say that I want those two colors to blend, but I don't want to blend them on the palette, and I don't want to blend them on the paper. I want them to do their own blending. So now I'm going to turn my paper upside down and allow the two colors to do their own mixing, and turn it sideways a little bit, turn it back down, let it go the other way. And I do that a lot so that the colors do their own mixing, as you can see here. I use Bulldog Clips a lot. That way, if I need to move my paper or do anything, it's simple. If it buckles because I can wait till it dries and then smooth it out. You know, taping it, I don't like if I paint when I'm wet, I don't like my paper taped. But let me just show you this beautiful mix that's going on here. And that is solely done by putting the two colors close to each other and allow gravity to mix the two colors. I really like what's going on in this little general vicinity here, creating kind of a neutral gray. And I'm going to just take another color just for fun and just put it down in here, and I'm going to put it right across here. And now I'm going to let gravity do a couple of things, then I'm going to move my paper. And you can see the water as it's moving up the page, and it's going to take this color, which is a violet, a bright violet by Holbein, and now it's taken it up towards the burnt sienna and towards the ultramarine blue. I probably couldn't make that color. Allowing gravity to let the granules do its own mixing, I think that's just gorgeous. This is basically the angle that I do my painting at, sometimes a little bit less. Now if I'm painting wet on dry, you don't really have that run of the gravitational pull so much as you do when everything is wet. So pretty much everything stays, and depending on how much pigment you use, everything stays pretty much where you want it to. And you end up creating what is called the watercolor bead. You'll notice right here, as you pull the paint down, you create a little bead, and everything's going to stay right there until you push it down just a little further. And then you got that bead, and you are golden as long as you have that bead right there. So we're going to push it even further down, and I'm not going to have a hard edge as long as I have that bead there. I can bring in some other color, and I'm good because I still have that bead there. So I'm going to take that down, and as you can see, it creates a nice little bead, and it stays right where I put it. What I do is I dry off my brush, and I will come back and soak that up with a thirsty brush. There we go. So all this comes down to trial and error. Practice, practice, practice. Watercolor paper is expensive, so as I do, utilize both sides. Make sure, as I've been saying for quite a while, that you use good watercolor paper. It just will not work if you use cheap paper. You will not like the results, and I promise you, you'll get frustrated and quit. There are outstanding watercolor artists that can paint all in one go and get it done, and I really admire that, but mostly we paint in layers. First layer, wet, soft, light, good shapes. Second layer, more value, leaving lights. The use of medium grays, and then the third layer, your darkest dark and harder edges. It's a dance, one that you choreograph and execute. Well, I hope this has helped you a little bit on becoming a better watercolor artist. This is Paul Valdez. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next time.